All right. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Best Self Blueprint. So, as you all know, the mission of this podcast is to bring on people with the knowledge, insights, and experiences that will help you move that dial towards becoming the best version of yourself, whatever that means to you. So, this guest is increasingly more interesting to me as I talked to her beforehand, but she is an avid traveler, adventurer, hiker, a studier of psychology and human development, which I'm very fascinated about. And she's just living life in the direction of fulfillment for herself and impact with others. So I am excited for you to meet her. Kira, how are you doing?
Doing good. How are you?
Oh, fantastic. So the place I want to start is with the psychology and human development. So what is the distinction between psychology and human development?
So psychology is like about human beings, and I feel like human development's more about therapy and people. I'm studying human development because of little children. I want to be a child counselor. So that's why I'm mostly focusing on both of them. And then
Okay.
I decided to do human development. I was thinking of majoring in it, but then there was like some issues with doing both at the same time. You have to do
Gotcha.
like a lot of service work, and I'm already volunteering, so it'd be a little overwhelming for
And
right
we
now.
we will get into the volunteer stuff because I'm curious about that too. But with psychology, I know that you've done some research and some work on micro expressions. So I'm going to lay out as someone who's self-researched, as I was telling you before, I'm definitely not a PhD in micro expressions, but it's so fascinating how whether it's with like lie detection or like micro advancements or micro like negativity or whatever they're called, I don't know the terms exactly, but as you get exposed to these things, I feel like every conversation becomes a case study. What have you picked up on most that like you didn't notice before, but now you can't unsee when you talk with people?
If they like me or not, I know if people like you, they copy your expressions. It doesn't have to be like a romantic way, just like a friendly way too. But I had a coworker who would copy every single expression I did. I'm like, I'm great. Like, it's great. I know that, we're good friends, but it's kind of weird that you're copying every single thing. And I noticed, and it was just hard to like concentrate whenever he was talking. So I'm like, you're doing the same thing that I'm doing. And
Yeah,
like playing games, when they're like rolling the dice, that means they're like feeling lucky. And then when they do this, all those, or I read in one book about all the politicians and what their expressions are when they feel like they're in power. I read it in Hungarian, so it's hard to know the English term for it, but when they like do this power position, I don't know what it's called in English, but
interesting.
it's always fascinating to see.
So I also want to preface, she is from Hungary. She moved here. So uh if she starts speaking Hungarian, just roll with it. But no, so one thing I also heard about, there's a podcast called Impact Theory, and they brought on a psychologist, and she was talking about how if you like pat someone from like above, so like if you like pat someone on the shoulder or like I don't know why you would, but pat someone on the head, maybe like a little kid or something, that's actually a dominant move
Yeah.
because you do it with like pets, you do it with little kids where like you're patting down to them. And so that was something the psychologist Vanessa Van something. If you type in Vanessa Van on Google, you'll probably find her. But she was talking about you will see a good amount of politicians do that with
Oh,
people
yeah.
because it is a, a dominant position. It gives them that kind of like upper hand, at least psychologically, for whatever reason. But yeah, that's something in just a little bit of time I've spent researching it. You start to see these things about like if people are, yeah, if they're mirroring your expressions or, if their eyebrows are like down or if they're raised, how wide their eyes are, like crinkles on like different parts of their face, all these different things
Oh, yeah.
signal so much more than we know they do. And I think subconsciously we're aware of it. But to bring that to the forefront of the mind, I think just creates such a new element with conversation.
Oh, definitely. And I don't take offense to it if it's something like more rude. Like I know some people do it without knowing that they're doing it because it's rude. You know what I mean? But for example, when they do like, oh, her, or like she's doing this and they're pointing like that, that's apparently rude. And as you said, it's like a dominant sign, like, oh, that person over there.
Mm-hmm.
That
Getting
and
that leg
handshake.
up.
I don't know, handshake's a very common topic, but the way you handshake, if your hand's on top, bottom, and then if yours on bottom, then you're the submissive, and then politicians like grab their shoulder to regain that power. So even if you watch like politicians like grabbing each other's arms and introducing themselves or saying hi, then you can notice that too.
Yeah.
It's
So
fascinating.
so with psychology, have you heard of the phrase ocean with like the 5 different like character traits?
No. What is that?
So I'm not going to get half of these, but it's like one of them is like neuroticism. So neuroticism, I feel like in the English language has a very negative connotation, but it's just, are you a worrier or are you a go with the flower, I guess, for the lack of a better term. So if you're
Yeah.
high in neuroticism, you like to plan and anticipate. And a big part of that comes down to the serotonin release in your system. So you'll probably have a slower serotonin release. One of them is like, it's like, how tidy are you? So if you're really tidy or if you're really messy. And so it kind of dives into these different traits. And a big part of it is they say based on like just your micro expressions alone, you can identify a good amount of these traits with like how dominant you are. And that's one thing I didn't realize with a handshake. I always just assumed like when people try to grab grab your hand and like squeeze it to death, that's like a dominant thing. That's something I usually like to mirror with people. So if someone's trying to squeeze the crap out of my hand, I'll just do it right back. If someone's nice and like soft and sweet about it, I'll be the same.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so fascinating once you pick up on these things, like how much it changes and alters what you're thinking about throughout the duration of a conversation. Now, when it comes to lie detection in particular, have you done a lot of like research or learned a decent amount about lie detection?
Some of it, like apparently the way you look when you're telling a story tells if you're creating the lie or if you're remembering back. Stuff like that. And covering your mouth is like because you're ashamed of what you're saying and you're lying, touching your nose, like all of a sudden it's itchy, stuff like that. But I haven't really observed it that much.
Well, then that means people are being honest with you, which is amazing.
I
But
hope so.
so yeah, while we're on the topic, I'll give my quick 2 cents from an amateur perspective. So if people are lying, there's a few like key giveaways. So anyone at home, if you want to take this and use it, do a lie detection test. But the first one is, yeah, I think it's, so ask someone a question that you'll obviously know they're telling the truth. Like ask them like what they ate for breakfast yesterday. And I think it's when you look to the left, you're trying to remember. If you're trying to look to the right, you're like creating a lie. That could be wrong. I don't know which direction is which, but ask questions to gauge it. The other one is like they'll flush in their face, like their cheeks will get a little more red because like when you're nervous or anxious, you're gonna feel that flush. And then the third one is the tone of their voice. So if someone's lying, they'll either like go up an octave or they'll slow down what they're saying or they'll speed up. So just noticing like a change in how they're speaking is usually an indicator as well. So there you go. Everyone is now a human lie detector. But one thing I really want to get into, because this to me is more important than people give it credit for, is traveling and just experiencing new places and new people. So as someone who like you've done collaborations with people, so meeting new people, you've gone and shot for your social media pages, and I'm sure for just personal experience, like going to all these new places and doing all these new hikes. What to you is the biggest driving factor in going out and trying to experience these new places and people?
Well, hiking is like therapy to me. It's the only time I can forget all my problems and I'm like in the moment. You kind of have to do it because it's like survival if you like take a misstep, but it helps me concentrate and just forget all my problems. When I'm up there, I feel accomplished. When I'm down, I feel great. And now I'm just like, hiking a lot, doing more and more challenging hikes. I mean, we have like class threes, fours, which I'm a little scared to do yet, but it's definitely super, super fun. In traveling, I grew up traveling. I lived half of my life in Hungary and half of it in America. So I've been traveling a lot back and forth. And even in Europe, we went to more places and in America. So I definitely have like different perspectives on different countries and different states in the US. And it's very significant, the differences from Europe to America.
So talk to the people about open-mindedness, because I can only assume Hungary and America have a little bit different cultures when it comes to certain things. Like I know
Yeah.
you were talking about even the amount of ice we put in drinks is way
Yes.
different. So like A, what did that teach you about just accepting new cultures? And then B, what did it teach you about, I mean, just open-mindedness in general?
Well, I think you have to have an attitude of not judging other countries and more like observing what they're doing because you can learn so much when you travel to different countries. Like I've been to Scotland and their attitude on life is different than Italy, and everywhere I've been, it's just different. Like I've been to Italy and I know they don't really like tourists. I've observed that, but they have a different lifestyle and you have to respect it and still enjoy what you get there. But going there was quite interesting too. I mean, the place is gorgeous.
Italy, you mean?
Yes, Italy.
Yeah, it is. It is on my to-do list. Right now, my main focus is hitting all the US national parks.
Oh,
So
that's
once
great.
I do that, I will broaden my horizons, but I'm
Yeah.
pretty neurotic when it comes to like once I set a goal in my head, even if I hit the point of like I don't like I want to go do something else, it's always going to creep back like but you wanted to do that one thing.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that's almost like the gift and curse that comes with traveling is I don't know if you're this way, but like when I take a road trip or when I go on some vacation, the day I get back, I notice that I immediately start planning another vacation or another road
Oh,
trip.
yeah.
So it's just like if anyone's an avid reader, traveling's the same way where it's like for every book I read, I feel like I add a dozen more to my to read list. And now I'm to the point with traveling where it's like every trip I take, there's like a dozen more trips that I add to my list, whether it's talking with people like you who are experienced or just seeing, a post from a beautiful place on social media. So how do you prioritize like the places that you go see? Is it just based on simply what you want to go see? Do you like research it all? Do you talk to certain people?
All of it. I talk to people. I mean, I'm on Instagram a lot, so whatever I see there, Pinterest, I do it all. So if I find like a place like California or Oregon, or Oregon's like a perfect example. I go on Pinterest, look up everything. I go on Instagram, look up everything, and I write every single detail down of what I want to do. When I was in New Mexico, we had like no calm moment. I was like, okay, we're gonna go here. We're gonna try this food. This one's local. This one's the sand dunes, and it's interesting. It's 4 hours away, but I think we can fit it. And I make it. It's very active. I don't really do passive traveling where you just laid back and relaxing. Maybe if I go to Florida, but it's usually very active. And if it's up to me, I'm gonna research every single detail, every restaurant, every like breakfast place, coffee shops, every single thing.
Yeah, and I feel like that is so important. So I've had a good mix of both. I've done the passive vacations where you just go with some friends, hang out on the beach, drink more than you should. But to me, the ones that like I come back really feeling like I've gained something like culturally, spiritually, physically, mentally is when I am going places I've never been, not being around anyone I know, and just, being forced in a growth situation where you do have to get out of your comfort zone and talk to people you've never talked to before and do things you've never done. And I think there's just an extra element to that where you come back learning something about yourself, especially if something goes wrong. So I'm sure with all the traveling you've done, you've caught a couple of hitches. If you could, lay out a story of like one time when you were traveling, when something like stuff hit the fan and kind of like what you learned about yourself when you had to kind of scramble last minute.
Oh, this happened recently. I was in Florida and my wallet got stolen. And so I was at the hotel and we checked out, we left, we were like 10 minutes away and we went to a store. And I was like, oh my gosh, my wallet, I left it. I knew it was in the hotel. We took a picture right as we were walking up last night at the hotel. My wallet was in my hand. So I was like, okay, it's somewhere over here. And then we checked out and I'm like, I know it's underneath the bed. So we ran back. I was there within 20 minutes and I ran to the room and I asked the maids, can you open it? And then I noticed it's open. So I walked in, my bed sheets were torn off, only mine, and my wallet was gone. I'm like, oh no, I'm in this situation right now. I went up to the maids and said, like, who's in my room? Who's in my room? They're like, nobody. I'm like, the door was wide open. We left it shut and my bed sheets are off and I left it like made. And they're like, oh, nobody was there. I'm like, okay, I know where this is going, but I hope somebody's going to be genuine and just give it back and just be like, oh, I found it. Here it is. So I went down to the manager, told her all about it. She was laughing the whole time, did not take me seriously. I was waiting in the I said, "Okay, if you guys can't find anything, I'll have to call the cops and maybe like someone will, be scared and give it back or anything." She's like, "Oh, okay, just call the cops." And then she was laughing with coworkers and we were waiting at the lobby for the cop and she's like, "Oh, can you guys move? You're in the way for guests." I'm like, "Hello, I'm a guest myself and you're treating me terribly." Didn't take me seriously. She's like, we said like, "Oh, look at like who went in because you have to have like a key to go in the rooms." She's like, "Yeah, we found something. We found something." I'm like, "Okay, great. Can you tell me?" She's like, "No, we're gonna wait until the cops are here." Like a cop showed up. He was late, and she's like, "Oh, they're usually early." I was like, "Usually? Are you kidding me? What do you mean usually?" And he couldn't do anything about it because there were no cameras, so he couldn't see. He asked some people. They all denied it. She said she found something, and then she magically disappeared. She no longer had any evidence of anybody ever entering the room, which is impossible. I think she just didn't want to deal with it and have like a bad reputation, so she just deleted it. There's no way because the room was wide open and we shut it.
Yeah, delete the room
And
logs.
yeah, we wanted to check that. She denied it. I was like, okay, great. And the cops couldn't do anything. So I was just holding back my tears. I'm like, okay, we're good. I didn't have to cry. And then he said we couldn't do anything. I shed a little tear. I'm like, this is terrible. And we were flying back the day of. I had no identification, nothing to prove my existence. Like I could show pictures of me or any, like that's the only thing I had. So the whole day I was just worried about getting back to the airport and getting through the security. But even then, we were just talking about like, oh, it must have been like a teaching lesson. Like, what if, I create these scenarios in my head to feel like a little better about the situation. Like maybe I lost my wallet, so I don't go out in Denver at night. I probably would have went to grab drinks and like, what if, I don't know, I got roofied that night and, losing my wallet prevented me from going out. So I always have that perspective that it saved me from a worse situation. Or what if I left my camera there, which is worth more to me? And it's like always teaching me something. And the airport situation was honestly very easy. They didn't have a lead. So they just said, "Oh, you're fine. We'll just like check your bag very like they checked everything in my bag. They drug tested every single thing, even my phone." I was like, "Oh, thank God I don't do any drugs because they would be like, okay, go over there." And they just let me through. I was super grateful about it. And I definitely learned a lot. I mean, I bought one of those tiles, the
Oh yeah.
phone detector, the little detector thing. Bought that, had to get all my cards. I'm still waiting for one important bank card. Still hasn't arrived and I had to pay. I mean, I lost a couple $100, had to renew everything, which is also money, had to buy a wallet and my wallet was expensive. I mean, everything's relative, but
Yeah.
just going through all of that and just having a positive attitude while you're on vacation and remembering that place positively, it's kind of, but also a lot of people reached out to me and told me that happened to them, so it's more common than I'd ever think, but
Yeah.
it's just hard.
So there are two things in particular I want to unpack about that. The first one is what you just said, which is it's very easy when you're the one experiencing it to feel like you're the only one who's ever experienced this
Yeah.
trauma or this trouble or whatever challenge is presenting itself. But to kind of put it in the perspective of, okay, a bunch of people have gone through this. They're still alive and well. They're still like working their way through it. Now, that's not to say there aren't some serious problems where you can get yourself into some serious trouble, but I love, and this is going to lead into the second point, which is I love your ability to flip the script and talk about, okay, yes, like this is an inconvenience. Yes, this is going to cost me money on the back end. But at the end of the day, you're able to get home safely. This might have prevented a bigger problem. And just to be able to use a negative situation as a trigger to think of gratitude, I think is such a powerful tool in terms of mindset and just how to live life. So this is something I do all the time. And it took a very long time to get to this point. And I'm by no means saying I'm perfect, but I've cultivated the mindset through a lot of intentional, like putting post-it notes on stuff and setting alarms on my phone, where now anytime I'm mad, frustrated, sad, upset, it automatically triggers me to think of what I'm grateful for. And so I think that's something, when you're presented with a situation like that, it makes it so much more powerful because you're understanding, A, you're able to physically calm yourself down a little bit so you can think more clearly, but also it kind of puts things into perspective of like, okay, yes, this isn't ideal. Obviously, no one wants to get their wallet stolen the day they're flying home, but to be able to put it into perspective and say, okay, like, yes, this sucks, but at the same time, there are a lot of things going well for me right now that could be, my problem as opposed to the thing that I'm dealing with right now. So I love your mindset on that. And I hope people took that away in real time, because that's one thing I love about having people on here with that kind of mindset. I'm not trying to like trick you into answering a certain way. I just let you answer and you reveal the fact that, yeah, like it does suck. You're not going to try to like say like it doesn't suck getting your wallet stolen, but to have that perspective and to understand that kind of macro view of life itself and knowing like you were still safe, you were still okay. And I think that's something so many people can learn from. So I think that's awesome. One other thing I want to get into with mindset is, and I think this might be a part of what you were talking about. In one of your posts, I love the way you phrase this. You said, the future is an illusion our brains create, which often makes us anxious or unappreciative of the present. Do you remember putting that?
Yes.
Okay,
So
so I think that links to what we're talking about a lot, which
yeah.
is, when you lose your wallet, you're thinking about that flight home. You're thinking about having to get these new cards. And in that moment, like it's almost like a duality of like you're living the future, the theoretical future, and that's causing anxiety in the present, which then spirals into not appreciating the present. So if you could talk about that quote and like, what was it, that experience that led you to like figure that quote out in your life, or what life experiences have led you to really understanding why it's so important to appreciate the present moment?
Yeah, so I'm a very anxious person. I always think about the future nonstop. Just what am I going to do next? I always had, I'm going to say pass, thank God, but I always had that attitude of, oh, I should have been doing this. So if I'm like laying in bed and relaxing, oh, I should be walking my dog. I should be talking to my friends and family. I should be studying. I should be reading a book. I should be finding extra work, volunteering. I always created excuses for doing everything but relaxing. And even when I did relax, I just felt guilty. So I started reading this book called The Power of Now.
Mm,
Actually, somebody gifted it to me. And I don't know, it was so spot on of exactly the book I needed in my life because it just teaches you to be in the present moment. And every time I'd be worrying about the future, I'd be like, okay, just be in the present right now. And I think I was reading that book when my wallet got stolen, and that took so much anxiety away of just having that attitude of, I'll figure it out. Why am I worried right now? I'm still on vacation. I'll figure it out once I'm home. I'll just get my cards back. I used some of my money to get like a new wallet. Why am I worried right now? I'll have plenty of time. They'll all come back soon. And it just took so much anxiety. And every time I'm like overthinking, I just have that attitude. Am I in the present? Or if I'm like sad, why am I sad? Did something happen right now? Am I just sad for no reason? And you just analyze your thoughts more. So even that book is, it's, I would recommend it to everybody. It's amazing.
It is. That's Eckhart Tolle, right?
Yes.
Yes. Amazing book. I love it. All right. So I'm going to dive a little deeper into this. So, one question I have, because I've found in my life, there can only be so many coincidences, right? Until it's not a coincidence. I've found that so often in my life, when I'm in need of a certain lesson or in need of, a piece of information, God, the universe, Gaia, Mother Nature, Peter Pan, whatever you believe in, tends to give me that. And it's so fascinating to me that the more you kind of buy into that process, the more, again, God, the universe, what have you, will bless you or provide you with those like weird synchronized lessons, whether it's someone giving you a book or maybe it's a friend that you meet that presents a new lesson. Is that something you believe in, that like life will give you those lessons at the right moment? Or do you believe more in like it was happenstance, but it was lucky that you got that book and then you were tested in that way? What's your thought process?
I think everything happens for a reason. And I know a lot of people regret not doing something in the past. And I always say at that moment, that was the best decision you could have made. Now you're in the present, nothing's stopping you from doing it now that you're ready. But like worrying about like not doing something in the past for no reason, you weren't ready. The universe wasn't like signal that you weren't ready either.
Mm-hmm.
And at that choice, you made the best decision. Now that you're ready and you realized it, now's the perfect time to pursue it. You're never late on anything.
So this is something I actually had a really hard time with for a very long time. Was I feel like when you're in a growth mindset and you are very intentional about like leveling up, I call it, as a human being or just as a being in general, you tend to look back and think, how stupid was I to make the decisions I made back then? And it's having that grace and understanding that that's you right now making a different decision than you 5, 10 years ago. You're not the same person. I mean, yes, you're still in the same body. Yes, you still, have, you're still living the same lifetime, but with the people you've met, with the lessons you've learned, with the experiences you've had, you are a different person that thinks in a little different way or a very different way. And so that's something that, I mean, speaking from experience, it's a lot easier said than done. But to have regrets is to, I feel like, be judging yourself for a different version of you. And it's like you're talking about having that grace and having that presence to now say, all I can really do is make the best decision right here and now. And that could be with so many different filters. So making the best decision to become a millionaire, making the best decision to have washboard abs, making the best decision to find a significant other. Like there are so many different filters, and that's for the person to decide. But I love that mentality of just making that decision that's best for you right now in the present moment and understanding that that's all you can do. And so, like, I always think of like if you've ever seen the movie We're the Millers with Scotty P, like no regrets. That's what I think about. As bad as that tattoo is, that's what I always think about when I kind of get into this mindset. But one question I have for you is like, it's a continuous lesson, but is there one lesson in your life that sticks out where you're like, now looking back, you say, yes, that did happen for a reason. But when whether it was like something you did or something that, just happened in your community, in your life, where at the time you were like, screw that, there is no reason. But now you look back and you're like, okay, I can see the reason for this thing.
I think a lot of people can relate to this, but being in a bad relationship and not getting out sooner. I don't want to bash on the whole thing, but it was a huge learning lesson. And somebody who like constantly tries to bring you down and you're tolerating it for no reason. And then I had to go through grief. And soon I realized, is this what I want to deal with while grieving? Absolutely not. And it just fell apart. And you always have that in your head, like, oh, why didn't I do this earlier? Why didn't I realize this? Why did I let them talk to me like that? And, at the moment, it just happened the way it did. and you let it unfold. You gave the person too many chances, and that's like something where I'm like, I have like pretty mixed feelings about.
Mm,
But then again, it's just a learning lesson, and it took me this long to realize.
yeah.
I thought changing my behavior would help, but changing your behavior won't change like a narcissist behavior. They just want you to think that you've changed, and even though you're changed, so they like present like a very positive personality, like they're so great, and then they show their truth, and then you blame yourself, like what did I do, and you try to change your behavior, but it's not your behavior that needs to change, but their behavior, but you don't know that, and I feel like it just takes a while.
So this is something, yeah, and I am definitely in that situation. I have been in I would call it a toxic relationship, not because it was with like a horrible human being. We're actually friends current day, but it was one of those things where the reason it was toxic is it forced me to feel like I had to act a certain way and be a certain person to cater towards creating that correct synergy that requires a relationship to thrive. And it was only when a very specific series of events happened in that relationship that all of a sudden it felt like I went from being hypnotized to the hypnotist like snapping their fingers in front of my face. And I was like, what the heck is going on right now? And it finally convinced me to then end that relationship. And now I can say fully that, and I'm sure you would agree at this point in your life with what you experienced, there is absolutely no reason to try to put up a front to get a boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever you're looking for, because eventually you're going to have to show your true colors. And you want that person to initially be with you for that truest version of yourself. Now, obviously, life happens, people will change, they'll evolve, they'll grow, but you want that person to be with you for who you truly are. And that's something, at least for me, is a big priority. For any of you other single folks out there, represent. Seriously, like, don't try to put on a front. Don't try to, send what I call like your representative, which is all of your best charismatic traits and like leaving all your baggage to be boiled up like 6 months in. Like, be true to who you are and let that person know, because if you want that person to love you and respect you for you, you have to be the real you. Otherwise, it's just never going to work. So that's at least coming from a similar situation. I won't say, it was the person was mean to me all the time and it was a bad relationship in that aspect. Like, amazing person, just was a toxic relationship because of the personality types. Um, what was the biggest thing you learned that now, because are you currently single?
Yeah.
So as a single person now, what does that teach you in terms of like, I maybe you're not even like looking, but as someone who's now not in a relationship, what is it that you kind of use as your filter now to determine like, okay, do I think this person could represent a healthy relationship, or is it just going to be me falling into the trap of like going back to someone who's comfortable and similar? What were your lessons taken away from that?
I noticed red flags right away. And when I notice them, I used to tolerate them, and now I'm like, go, run. I had that where somebody was, so I have like a hard time saying no. I'm working on it. I'm a people pleaser. So every time somebody's like, I want to see you today, tomorrow, the day after, I'm like, okay, I'll try to make time instead of, setting boundaries, be like, I have a lot of things going on. I won't be able to see you every single day. And noticing when people just pressure you, I that's like a red flag to me when it's like too much pressure. And I've been on a couple dates where I definitely noticed the red flags right away. And I'm pretty good at communication now. So I'll ask questions of why they're behaving like that. And people don't like the confrontation, especially if they're a little more toxic. And then they can't give you a reason. I'm like, okay, next. So I think I learned to like go of people more easily and how to notice red flags more easily too. And definitely I won't allow people to treat me the way like my ex would in our past relationship. And now every time I notice that if it's on like a date or it's usually like it takes like a couple dates to figure that out. But then I'm like, bye, gone. No chances. There's no point. We're good.
So, okay, this is very fascinating to me. So, especially with your background in psychology, have you read the book The Five Love Languages?
Yes.
Oh,
2
great
times.
book. I haven't read, funny enough, I haven't read the single edition, which, doesn't make any sense. But anyways, that's one thing I find really fascinating is when you're going on these initial dates with people, like just like how you were talking about, you have no interest in just letting things slide. You want to bring them up and talk about them right off the bat. To me, the five love languages is something like as soon as you commit to someone, you got to figure that ish out. Like you need to know what their love language is because that's something that I feel like will represent as a red flag, but really it's just a difference in how you express and receive love. So like what's interesting about it is for me, how I express love is a different language than how I like to receive love. So I'm a big active service giver. Like I like doing things for people, showing them that I'm there. And then for receiving it, I'm big like words of affirmation and physical touch. And so like for someone whose love language receiving it is quality time and like gifts, I'm a busy dude. I'm not going to be spending a ton of time with you, but to understand like, okay, that person best receives quality time. So am I willing to sacrifice, 5% of my allocated time over here in order to show them that I'm willing to make them a priority? Is that something that you put focus on in these first few interactions or dates? Is like trying to kind of start to identify that, or is that something you're like, until I'm really all in, I'm not even worried about it?
I feel like nowadays it's a common topic. I feel like every time I meet somebody, it eventually comes up, even if it's like friends. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a relationship to know what their love language is. It can be your best friend and friends where it's good to know. Mine is the same. Well, I only know mine's the words of affirmation. Like I'm good with like not seeing somebody if I hear the right words, you know?
Yeah.
But and then like the bottom of it would be like acts of service where I'm grateful for it, but or yeah, probably that where I'm grateful for it, but it's not needed to know that I feel loved, you know? And it brought up like when your love tank is empty. I thought that was interesting too, because you're not receiving the right kind of love. And like they brought up like a situation where like if it was for the man, it was like acts of service and the wife is like, "You never spend time with me." And the husband's like, "Well, I take out the trash and I do this and that." And she doesn't like respect me or like isn't grateful for what I do. And she's like, "Well, you don't spend time with me." It's like, oh, different love languages are just, arguing right now. And they haven't realized that, oh,
When it's
different people need
the
needs.
thing that's so fascinating to me about this, and obviously, like, there's no judgment on people because they don't know it, but I feel like as soon as you hear this information, you can look at any disconnect in a marriage. And I'd say the vast majority are like, they have no idea what the other person's love language is. So, like you're talking about, like, there will be a guy who's like, I mow the lawn, I take out the trash, I do all this stuff. And all she does is yell at me for not spending time.
Yeah.
But it's so obvious, like spending time, quality time, taking out the trash, acts of service. So it's understanding, and I think it's a two-way street too. So like if I'm words of affirmation, but that person is acts of service, yes, I'm going to openly communicate that, hey, I need more like positive talk. I need more words of affirmation. But on my end, I also have to be more appreciative then of when they do acts of service because that's their strength. That's what's natural to them. And to just brush that off to the side and say, no, that means nothing to me. That's also kind of on you to not even regard that as, okay, yes, they're obviously putting in the effort. That to them is how they show they care. So, again, this isn't just for significant others. This is for parents, family, friends, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, like anyone doing anything, really diving in and trying to identify like, okay, what are their patterns? Like, how are they showing me that they love me? Because I think that's something that just goes unnoticed a lot. And when you start to do the critical thinking and intentional focus behind it, you'll really start to see the patterns of the people that you care about and love. And you'll notice that they really are telling you they love you just in ways that you previously didn't identify as that.
Yes. I've definitely noticed where I was like reaching out to somebody to hear words of affirmation because I was in a tough situation. But theirs is more like physical touch. It was just a friend, physical touch and quality time. And I was trying to like hear the right words and it just wasn't working out. I'm like, oh, I know that's not their love language. I shouldn't be like tough on them. And just even like noticing that maybe what you're craving is not like their fault, but that's, they just communicate in a different way. It's hard to like look into yourself and recognize that and not just go blaming right away.
Yeah. So, and this is where like at the bottom line, I feel like it all just kind of boils down to, and it's funny, this is actually kind of coming full circle. It boils down to communication. So communication is verbal and nonverbal. So micro expressions are a part of communication. So like that's another reason I dove into micro expressions is I wanted people to better know, whether consciously or subconsciously, that I am interested in what they're saying, that I am engaged in the conversation. And for the longest time, I would consider it poor advice at this point, where someone said, like, don't react until someone is done talking. And so I would literally just, like, the whole time someone was talking to me. And then afterwards, I would light up and respond and do that. And I noticed it felt very like forced because I'm a very animated person. If you couldn't tell, I'm like Ricky Bobby in Talladega Nights. Like, I don't know what to do with my hands. Like, I love moving my hands. I love talking. I love nodding my head and really showing that reciprocation and just that engagement. And so diving into micro expressions really taught me, even if people consciously aren't aware of it, subconsciously they are picking up on it, and they'll start to feel awkward. They'll start to kind of pull back. They'll start to be guarded. So that's the nonverbal side of things. But verbally, and this is going to sound so selfish, but I can guarantee you, anyone listening, if you implement this in your life, you are going to be so much happier. Say what you freaking want. Like, if you need your friend or parent or husband or wife, boyfriend, girlfriend to spend time with you, just ask. Like, you have every right to ask, just like they have every right to say no, stop talking to me. But like, ask what you want, ask for what you need. If you need someone to, so, and guys listening, I've found this out through trial and error. A lot of times if a girl comes to you with her problems, and you can actually let me know what you think about this too, Kira. When a girl comes to you with her problems, I would say at least half the time, she does not want a solution. She wants someone to listen and acknowledge that it is a valid problem. So that is a big part of communication as well, is like, if someone, and that's guys too sometimes, but guys and girls both, when someone comes to you with a problem, you need to ask, like, what do you need from me? Do you need me to listen, or do you need a solution? Because I have given solutions where they are not wanted, and I have not given solutions in times where they are needed. And both are very uncomfortable. So again, just with that verbal communication, asking for what you want. And then when someone approaches you, if you don't know how to help, ask what they want or what they need and just be there for them. So I don't know what you have to add to that, but that's kind of my 2 cents on the topic.
Well, you mentioned about communication. I definitely agree with you. Just tell them what you want. I know it's hard, and I know people like doing the guessing game or they should know, they should be doing this, but not everybody knows. Like, you can be like, out now, send them nowadays, like send them a TikTok of a cute video of like what their partner did and like, oh, that's so cute. You know, just like give at least hints, tell them, communicate, send videos, be creative. You don't have to be rude about it either. You can just be like, oh, it would make me feel very happy, instead of what you're doing is like, you're not showing me love, and, attacking them, but just like having a conversation and be like, the way you're doing this is making me feel, and kind of like balancing it out, and not like you're doing this, you're doing that, but like it makes me feel this way. I don't know. I thought that was, it's like it's a hard thing. Once you're in a relationship, you're like, well, why are they doing this and that? But then you're like, oh, you kind of have to like tell them, communicate. I'm all about open communication now. It's hard, but
Yeah.
you got to
Well,
do it.
well, and with that too, it's a muscle. I mean, just like in the gym, if you don't ever do bicep curls, are you really going to expect to have big biceps? Probably shouldn't. Just like if you never communicate freely, openly, and vulnerably, you're not working that muscle. And so it's going to feel very awkward and very unnatural because it is. And so if you're single, like me and Kira represent, then once you find that relationship, make it a priority right off the bat, right out of the gate, to be very openly communicative with that person. So that way you're not having to double back now and uproot those toxic habits and then place in healthy habits. And if you're in a place where you're in a relationship and you haven't done this open communication, awesome. Again, like what we talked about, there's no need to shame yourself or have regrets up until now, because as far as I'm concerned, time travel is not an accessible thing right now. So even if you want to go back, I'm sorry, you cannot. So live, yeah,
One day,
right.
maybe.
I know it would be awesome if we could, but so yeah, like just acknowledge where you're at in the present moment. Don't shy away from it. Don't ignore it. Don't escape it. Just acknowledge it and then very calmly identify, like, okay, what can we do to get better? And that's a piece of advice you can do with anything in your life, but especially when it comes to the context of communicating with anyone, that's a great way to start. Is friendships, open communication, significant others, open communication. And then if you're spiritual, religious, what have you, open communication with, again, God, the universe, whatever you believe in. Don't only go there in a time where you feel you need help. When you're having fun in life, be thankful. When you're learning something exciting in life or doing something exciting, be thankful. When you're bored in life, be thankful that you don't have some crazy problem and that you're just level. Always being very open and communicative about where you're at, what you're feeling, what you're experiencing. Because if you don't, it's like putting Mentos in a Coca-Cola bottle and shaking it up. Eventually, it's going to come out in directions and ways that you never want it to go out. So, yeah, that's my rant.
Oh yeah, I used to pile everything up, and then I just feel slightly crankier and crankier and crankier, and then I usually like end up in like road rage, or I'm not like screaming over, but in my head I'm like, oh my God, I'm so frustrated driving, like something's going on and I need to focus and observe, like what am I doing that's making me frustrated every day, where I can barely drive like a couple streets without like yelling at people and be like, just go, where I'm like constantly in a rush. And I knew I was like juggling like a lot of things at the same time. And I was just burning out, and I was coming out with, I mean, it's better than being aggressive with like friends, but even driving, I like driving. So being frustrated while driving, I'm like, I need to change something in my life right now.
Yeah. So this is something I was very much I always think about stress and negative emotions as in like weights that you put in a backpack that you're wearing. So if you keep not dealing with stress, you're going to keep adding more weight to this backpack until all of a sudden it just drops out. And so the real life, emotional analogy to that is perfectly depicted in when I was younger. This was in high school at some point, and I was very much like that. I was the Mentos and the Coca-Cola, and it got shook real bad to the point where it was a very normal conversation, me, my mom, my brother hanging out, and someone made one comment towards me, and I visibly started shaking with anger, blew my lid, and then just walked out of the house and like went for a run. Now, why I just went for a run, I couldn't tell you. That was a while ago, but if you ever notice yourself in a cyclical pattern of let it slide, let it slide, let it slide, and then boom, do something to relieve that tension and stress, whether it's, again, talking with someone, whether it's just doing some type of stress reduction practice, meditation, breath work, taking naps, petting a cat or a dog, something to relieve that stress and that tension, I think is so important. But we will start to wrap up. There's a lot more I'd like to dive into eventually. So I'll hopefully be able to have you back at some point. But before I get into my last question, let people know about like the volunteer projects you're working on and then where they can find you on social media.
Okay, so right now I'm volunteering with Make-A-Wish. I'm volunteering at my school as a mentor, and I'm training right now for a crisis line. So it's very exciting, especially that you brought up communication. And the only thing that it's like emphasizing all the time is do not give advice. You don't know the whole story. You're not there to give advice. You're there to actively listen and validate their feelings and be there as like a support system, but you're not there to judge, to tell them what to do, anything like that. So I think I've learned a lot from even just the training too. So I can't wait to actually start. I start next week. So
All
work
right.
for me.
Congrats. And then in terms of social media, because as someone who does like to road trip and travel, you are a really good person to follow. So let them know about the minivan social media and then wherever else you want people to connect with you.
My main priority right now is Instagram, and it's Kara.minivan. People think it's my last name. It's not my last name. It's like becoming now an inside joke, but that's my main platform's Instagram.
Awesome. All right. So for anyone listening, she knows about psychology. She knows about human development. She knows all the great places to travel. She knows if you're lying or not. She knows how to help you get a volunteer project started. She knows a lot about a lot. And obviously, she's a very experience rich human being who is very interactive with her audiences on social media. I know because I've answered some of her polls and stuff. So definitely reach out if you have questions about what we talked about today. Obviously, the comment section is probably the best option, but not everyone likes public comments. So you can reach out to me or Kira on social media. We will happily talk to you about just about anything, even if it's not something we discussed here today. If this is something you feel other people could learn from, which, I mean, talking about communication, talking about psychology, talking about growth mindset, these are all things that anyone can learn from. And maybe we said it in a way that will click with someone you know. So please share this with people. This is a free resource. The goal is to get this in front of as many people as possible and really create a community of people with a growth mindset who are looking to make the most out of their life. If you like this video, that is why there's a like button. Feel free to click that. And then last but not least, we do have Best Self merch available. These shirts are extremely comfy. That's why you see me wearing them around all the time, not just because they're mine. They are super comfy. I wear them when I work out. I wear them to bed. I wear them out the very few times a month I actually go out and hang out at bars and parties and things like that. Other than that, though, I want to give everyone so much respect for tuning in and really investing the time in growing. You don't always know what area of your life you're going to be growing in when I have these guests on, but to be committed to yourself and to creating that dream life is something I am so humbled to be able to help people with every single week and to connect you with these people who have way different perspectives sometimes than me, who will say things in a way I don't, that can reach you. So stay committed, stay in pursuit, know that you are worthy of the dreams that you're chasing. And Kira, thank you so much for coming on. It was a blast talking with you before and during the recording. I'm so excited to see the community that you create with your social media. I'm excited to hear about the impact that you have with volunteer work in the fields of psychology and human development, in the world of travel and adventure, and just growing as a human being. Thank you for taking the time. But before we go, I have one last question.
Go for it.
You ready? All right. What for you right now is the next step in you becoming your best self?
Right now, it's probably just all the volunteer work, and if I help others, I'll definitely feel better inside too.
All
So
right.
giving.
Contribution. I like it. That is big on my to-do list as well right now. All right. We will wrap it up with that. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Click like, share a comment, share the video, do all the stuff. We want to blow this channel up. Thank you for tuning in, and we will catch you next time.